Welcome to Backstage with Becca B, with special guest Ellen Marlow. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, she made her Broadway debut at age 10 in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, starred as Claire Lyons in The Clique, was a swing for 5 different roles on the national tour of Kinky Boots, and was part of the ensemble in Frozen on Broadway, where she was an understudy for Princess Anna. Please welcome Ellen Marlow. How have you been in general, first of all?
Good. It's definitely been a wild couple of years for sure. But I'm good. I'm really I'm starting to feel settled for the first time in a while. I moved a lot during the pandemic. I went through personal trials and tribulations, obviously. And now I'm living with my brother at his house on the North Fork of Long Island.
Ooh.
So I'm loving it. It's out like way out east, like near the Hamptons, Montauk, and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect time to be here. So I cannot complain. It's like 75 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, just like amazing. So it's good. And you're in Dallas, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
It is not 75 degrees there.
No. It was cool yesterday. It was only like 90 degrees instead of 5.
My whole family is in the Dallas area pretty much, and they are like dying. My mom's living in the swimming pool. Like, yeah. She's like, it is unfathomably hot, just horrible.
It's insane.
But what part of Dallas are you in?
I'm in like North Dallas, close to Richardson area.
Yeah, my mom lives in Coppell. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
so I know all about that whole thing.
I know Coppell because Texas Dreams Gymnastics, and my sister was a gymnast, so.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Love that. But yeah, life is good. Can't complain.
Yay. Glad to hear that. So I want to get into acting because you've been in the business for quite a while.
Yes.
I was reading your resume yesterday. So what was your first introduction to the acting world, and when was the moment you really fell in love with acting?
Well, I have to give my parents a lot of credit because we were I'll be saying we a lot, talking about my older brother, because we're only 15 months apart, like full Irish twins, still live together, join at the hip. So, and he's also a musician and a performer and all of that. So we grew up very much on the same path and track. But I have to give my parents a lot of credit. They really exposed us to so much art and culture from a very, very early age. And I really it can all kind of circle back to going to Dallas Summer Musicals at Fair Park. Like we did that because I'm from Texas. We did that my whole life, basically. We would want to see everything. They showed us so many movies, musicals. My dad is a huge music fan. And he exposed us to a very wide variety of music. So we were exposed to a lot. So once I kind of figured out that I could sing, which kind of came first for me, I was obsessed with all the musical movies. So Funny Girl, Barbra Streisand was like number one. I would sing those songs like on my roller skates through my house, like obsessed. And so that's kind of how I started to get into theater, because I was just singing so much around the house, and I was constantly I was like that kid that performed for the family at like birthday parties. So and doing school talent shows and all that kind of stuff. But my mom, was really aware of my passion for it, and obviously I was living and breathing musicals and music and singing and all of that, singing and dancing and acting. So she put me in some community theater stuff. I did a production of The Wizard of Oz at University of Texas, like a bash. So that was really cool. I was a munchkin. I had a whole line. So that was really exciting. And then I just kind of was doing stuff like that around the Austin area. And then my mom signed me up. Which I can't believe. Every time I tell the story, I'm like, I cannot believe this woman had such blind faith. But my mom and my brother and I flew to New York City, and I went to an open call for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on Broadway and stood in line with about 3,000 kids
Jeez.
for hours and hours. And I mean, they saw everyone under the sun. And I went in and I sang Broadway Baby from Follies. And I did like my 16-bar cut that I had prepared. And I flew back to Texas and I didn't hear anything for like 2 months. And so we just thought it was like, okay, that's a fun experience that I had. And we got to go to New York and I got to go to a real Broadway audition and okay, back to elementary school. So then I got a call back and they had me fly to New York and I had 3 or 4 callbacks throughout a week, mix and matching with other kids and all that kind of stuff. And then they called me and I got the part. So then we moved to New York and it was just like, it's crazy to think about. So we moved to New York in 2005 and I did that show for about a year. And then after that show closed, we were kind of just like, what's next? And I ended up going to LA and then it all continued from there. But that's how I first got into it. Long-winded answer, but that's how it all went down.
I mean, I was going to say they probably loved your song choice as like a 9-10-year-old?
I was 10, yeah. And it was really like a ballsy cut of it too. Like it was in a really high key. I'm like belting up in the rafters. It was, and I did it actually, you can find it on my YouTube channel. I did it in my show at Green Room 42, that cut. And I was like, oh, okay. That was a lot. But yeah, so it was a cute little song choice. And I think they had me sing something else too. They were like, do you have anything that's like a little like sweeter and like more soprano? And I sang a cut of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like that's what I had. So I think I had like, I didn't even have a book, you know what I mean? Like I had like 2 or 3 songs that I just like sang for people when they asked me to. And my brother's a piano player, so he could play and all that kind of, so yeah. But it was a crazy experience for sure.
They could tell you were a musical theater fan at that age, and they were like, gotta keep an eye out, gotta
for
see if we can get her in the show.
So I did that show and that was a great time, and then got more into acting, more away from singing, more into acting once I moved to LA. But that's how it all started.
So I want to talk more about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang because that's so cool to make your Broadway debut at such a young age.
Yeah.
When you were told you got the part, what was your reaction? As were you still 10 when you got the part?
I was so excited, of course, but in my heart, it's so, I don't mean for this to sound presumptuous or arrogant in any way, but when I left that final callback, I knew I got the job. So I was like waiting for the call. And I think a lot of people will say that. And I still feel like that to this day. Like when I go to a final callback for something, if I like, you just get a gut feeling like this is right. I clicked with those people. They were vibing with me. And I've always known that feeling, especially from that, like that audition process. So I kind of knew that it was coming in my heart. And I was so excited and I couldn't wait. I weirdly, like even at that age, felt like I didn't really belong in Austin. Like I was like, I need to go to New York and be with my kind of people, like theater people. And so I was very, very excited about that. And then it was just like full speed ahead from there, because then we moved across the country and my brother had to go to a new school, and like we had to live in an apartment for the first time. I'd always lived in houses my whole life, in Texas. So it was like a lot of adjustments, but it was the most unbelievable experience. And that show, the cast of that show in particular, was just so extraordinary that, and I didn't even know who any of them were, obviously, at the time. Like I had not a clue what was going on, but it was a really extraordinary experience, particularly because of the people that I was working with in the cast. They were incredible.
What was it like keeping up with school at the time while being in a Broadway show?
Yeah, well, that was, I'm going to give my parents a lot of credit, like over and over again, but my mom made an incredible decision because it's insane. I also like am talking about this and I can't believe I'm this old now, because I'm like, this would never happen now, but this really would never happen now. We weren't double cast, me and Henry. So we did all 8 shows.
Oh my goodness.
Which would literally never happen now. Like, I mean, I can't imagine. So we did all 8 shows. We were, during previews, you're in rehearsal all day. and during like that tech previews time, you're in rehearsal all day, you do the show at night, sometimes with new lines and songs and scenes cut and things added. And we were keeping up with the grown-ups with all that, you know? I mean, it was like a lot of work. And my mom, during like the previews time, they were trying, so stupid. Like, I don't know why it's like this, but they were trying to like rush us back to the schoolroom to get 20-minute blocks. And it was the same when I worked on the Clique, like a movie later, which I was, you know, I was a lead and I was very in demand on that project, but they were rushing us back to the schoolroom to go to school. My mom's like, she's learning new songs and scenes like every 2 minutes and in tech and previews and doing 8 shows a week. Like, let's put a pause on school until the show's open. And so I took the spring off. Like, I took off March, April, May, I believe. And we were doing, I mean, it was like, I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go do the Today Show and then coming to do a matinee and then going to do more press between shows and then doing the show in the evening. Like, it was just such a circus. And so she stopped my tutoring. My mom said, we're stopping the tutoring for the spring. And I picked it back up in June and I schooled through the whole summer. So I made up those 3 months like through the summer and then just kept on going through there. And once you're past that like Tony season time, you just do the 8 shows a week and it calms down. So then school becomes more manageable. You do it, you know, a couple hours during the day and then go to the show at night. But it was chaotic for sure to start off.
I mean, but like, I was going to say, low-key, you're kind of getting like a school experience through going in and going to rehearsal. It's just a different kind of school experience because it's like a musical theater kind of school.
Well, and that's the only school I wanted, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, who gives a shit about geometry? No, I'm like, but I just cared about being better and learning. And I was constantly like, I was such a sponge and like, there's things that Raul and Aaron and Phil and Chip and like all of those people in that cast, Jan Maxwell, Mark Kudish, things, and even our creative team, like Jillian Lynn was our choreographer. Like, there are things that those people said to me or that I picked up on and heard and I absorbed, and I have never forgotten those lessons. I've never forgotten the things that those people have taught me ever. So it was like a crash course, you know, Broadway school for sure. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that, but that's totally what it was.
Yeah. So Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was a movie from like, I think I saw 1968 or something.
Yeah, 60s.
Were you familiar with the movie growing up? Because I know I watched it at least a couple times.
I definitely saw it as a kid. What was interesting about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is that it opened in the West End before it came to Broadway. And in London, it's like Wizard of Oz in the UK. Like, it's a huge phenomenon in the UK, which is funny because it's not here. But like, I know it, you know, I've seen it, I knew it. But I was obsessed with the Wizard of Oz as a child. Like, I watched the Wizard of Oz like every day.
Yes.
My entire childhood. So, but that's how it was in the UK. So I had a general knowledge of it and I knew, okay, it's a car that flies, you know, I had seen it, but I wasn't like a super fan or anything by any means.
Okay, so what's it like going in and originating a role that's for a musical that's based on a movie and having like a take?
It felt like such a singular experience. Like, I didn't, because of also we were doing so many incredible things on the technology standpoint. I mean, the car flew out over the audience, and this is 18 years ago. You know what I mean? So we were doing such advanced things that it felt so separate from that movie from the 60s. That I didn't think about the movie at all. Like, what we were doing was so separate in my head. So I wasn't like, what did she do in her performance? We had a completely new book. We had new songs that weren't in the movie. So it felt like a completely different thing. Wow. Just like the likeness and the tradition and the likeness of the original movie is obviously the same in what we had, but it didn't feel like, like even like Legally Blonde, like it would be hard to not think of the movie if you're doing that musical, but it seems like very far removed to me. I mean, from my perspective, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, how cool at age 10, 11 to get to like originate a role on Broadway.
It was it's so like, even when you say that now, I'm like, I did. Like, that sounds like, I mean, it feels like such a long time ago. And I did originate the role, which is, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, but I didn't even think about it like that at the time. I was just like absorbing everything and going as fast as possible. And like, I mean, you couldn't have dragged me out of that theater. I wanted to sleep there. You know what I mean? Like I was loving every minute of
it. Exactly. So I want to ask, before I get into my next questions, well, how did about your future projects, how did you become well-rounded in acting, singing, and dance growing up? Because you have experience in all three, and you were swinging Kiki boots with 5 roles is insane.
Yes. How did I become well-rounded? Well, it just kind of happened. I don't know. Like I left New York and moved to LA, and then acting really came into the forefront, and I learned a lot there. I had an incredible acting teacher that I worked with for 10 years, who I love so much. His name is Steven Anderson. He's retired now, but I went to his class. I coached privately with him for auditions. It was interesting. I definitely, when I got to LA, I had a very clear understanding of what I did want to do and what I didn't want to do. And the industry kind of spit that back at me. So I would audition for Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and things like that, but that was not the kind of work that I was interested in doing, even at age 12. You know, and not to knock it, I mean, Hannah Montana and High School Musical is life.
Right.
But I just don't know if I was pretty sure, and I'm still pretty sure that that's not where my abilities lie. I don't think that's where I was meant to be. I did a lot of crime shows. You know, I was always like crying over like a dead sibling. That was the kind of, I was like always going towards kind of like heavier, weird stuff and obviously the Clique, which I did a lot of crying in that too. So I was kind of like doing that kind of stuff all the time. Dancing has never been my strong suit. I've dealt with chronic pain since I was 8 years old. So dancing has always been treacherous for me.
Yeah.
And I really have to like mentally get myself there because unfortunately I'm in a lot of pain all the time. So the dancing thing was difficult for me, but I did take class. I learned some fundamentals. I mean, I was in ballet and jazz and all that, you know, I took general tap and that kind of stuff, but I was always pretty certain that, you know, I was not going to be, and I'm short too. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a Rockette. Like, I'm not going to be a Broadway dancer. I'm
not going into audition for the Rockettes.
No. Or even like, you know, to be like a Stroman girl or a Follies girl. Like, I'm not like a tall, leggy Angie Schwarr, Raquel Rack. Like, I'm not that girl. So I just kind of always knew like I need to focus elsewhere. So I really focused on singing and acting. And yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I was in show choir in high school, and that's really where dancing came into play more so for me because I danced. I mean, we were dancing hard, like it was heavy. And that was great because that taught me a lot about dancing, especially like in an ensemble sense. And it's benefited me throughout the years.
Was growing up in the industry as a child, was there like a community of people? Was it like a close-knit community kind of?
Yes. That's so funny. No one ever asked me that question, and that's so real. My best friend from 6th grade, I mean, we're still very good friends, but we were like childhood best friends, is Miles Heiser. He was on 13 Reasons Why, and he was on Parenthood for the entire series. He was my first, like, I've said since as an adult, like, he is one of the loves of my life. Like, he and I were glued, joint at the hip, from 6th grade to until the time I moved to New York. Unbelievably close. He was my first kiss, my like real boyfriend, but we were like auditioning together all the time and like auditioning for the same things. We lived in the same apartment complex. There were several other child actors that lived in our apartment complex, and during the summers we would like swim in the complex pool and like, you know, ride our scooters around all over the place. Like we would, but we also were in this weird place of like being professionals.
Yeah.
So That is really funny because I haven't really thought about that either, but there definitely was. And our moms would all, commiserate together as well because they all were like, okay, what do you think? Did you like this headshot photographer? Should we go to them? Stuff like that. So that's really funny. But yeah, I definitely had other child actor friends growing up.
I actually thought of that because I used to listen to the Broadway Kids albums growing up. They were like on repeat. I had all of them. And I was like,
I remember those.
Yeah, I was like, this seems like the coolest like experience as a child to have this like close knit community of
people
who like
the
same thing that you like.
Yeah, it was nice too because I found so much peace in that because I had like my school friends, who I loved too, and like we would talk about boys and like whatever and be like normal kids and complain about school and talk about boys and have friend drama, gossip and whatever, all that kind of stuff. But then like my actor friends, we would like Miles and I saw Juno in theaters like 4 times. You know what I mean? Like that was my 8th grade experience. I'm like, no one else gets this. We went and saw Doubt with Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman as like 7th graders in the theater like 3 times. And we were like, this is sophisticated. Like this is high art.
You're like, we're grown up.
Yeah, we totally thought we were. But it was kind of confusing because then you're treated like an adult professional whenever you're at work. And you have all these expectations put on you, especially from your reps and everything else like that. So yeah, it was a very unique experience. But yeah, I love that.
Well, and I want to get into before I get into more theater, I want to get into in 2008, you were a part of the Clique.
Yeah.
Movie, which I read filmed in like a month. Is that true?
It was 6 weeks. It was really fast.
Oh my goodness. I was
really fast.
Shocked. That's so fast.
Yeah. Wow. So that was high stakes too, because we were doing like 1 or 2 takes. I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. So we would turn around and do 1 or 2 takes. Like it was like, you really had to like know what you were doing. Like there was no flubbing lines or like we're gonna lose light. Like you had to move so fast. So a lot of the actors were soap actors intentionally because they film an episode a day. And so they're used to moving at that pace. So several of like the adult actors were in like New York soap operas and were like, I've never filmed a movie like this. This is like soap speed. So yeah, it was a crazy ride. We were going really fast.
When you read the script for that movie, did you have any clue that it was kind of still pre-social media taking off? I feel like, I don't know when Twitter came along, but it was definitely like when everyone was using it to like meet friends from different countries, different states, etc. Did you have any clue that it would get the reaction that it did when it was released? Because it got pretty big.
I anticipated the movie doing pretty well because the books were such a phenomenon. Yeah. And I knew from my perspective and my friend's perspective that whatever happened with this movie was going to be somewhat successful because we were all, I mean, I read all of the books before I even auditioned for the movie. So it was very that time. And so did everyone in my grade. You know what I mean? Like it was just like the books were such a phenomenon and everyone read them. So the casting process for that movie was also really wild and extensive, and we kind of knew like this is gonna be a thing. And we also anticipated making 3 movies, so I wasn't even really thinking about movie 1 by the time it was done, and by the time it came out I was like thinking about movie 2 and movie 3. That never happened, but that was kind of, I don't really remember thinking about what the reaction was. I think I kind of shut down a little bit when the movie came out because I was like really afraid of criticism, and I was nervous obviously because people are so connected to the book and have such a strong reaction and such strong feelings about it, that I just kind of like blocked out what other people were saying about it in general because I just like had to protect my little heart and my performance, So I don't even remember, but what's been interesting is like the more time that's passed, the more I'm realizing like how many people actually watched it. I had no idea at the time.
So I feel like it was kind of like a Mean Girls type phenomenon for maybe a younger age group at the time, a more appropriate Mean Girls, because I remember when my mom took me to Mean Girls when it came out and she was like, what did I just take my child to?
I know. I was like, what's a slut? Like,
exactly.
I had no idea what they were saying.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it was definitely, I mean, I think so. And it was also in the age of like Pretty Little Liars and Gossip Girl. We had the same production team as Pretty Little Liars and Gossip Girl.
I saw Alloy.
So, yeah. So it was very that time, that era, which I love that era. So
yes.
I'm glad that I have a tiny little imprint on the history of it. So
I love that era too so much. Was it fun? Were you 14 at the time?
I turned 14 while we were shooting.
Okay, so 13, 14. Was it fun at 13, 14 as a new teenager to be playing such a three-dimensional character?
Yeah, I knew I always wanted to play that role. I originally auditioned for Massey, and I knew that was wrong all along based off of my knowledge of the books. But and I don't even think, by the way, like this project was so high profile that, like in the LA scene, I mean, that I don't even think we had real sides. I think they gave us faux sides for the audition. Like they didn't even, so I didn't even know what the movie was going to be until I booked it and I got the script. Because I think they gave us fake sides.
They were like secret.
So, yeah, exactly. And that's common for high profile things. Like it's a common thing. So I was so excited to get my hands on the script, obviously, to see how true they had stayed to the books and, you know, everything that I was actually going to be doing. But it was a thrill. And the girls, we all got along so well. And it felt like the most fun summer camp of all time. And our director was incredible. And I love him so much. We're still pretty close to this day. And our wardrobe designer, Mandy Line, who also did Pretty Little Liars, who's incredible, amazing. I can't say enough nice things. We were so close with those people. And our crew was exceptional because this was a very strange time in Hollywood where there was a writer's strike. So all TV shows shut down. And so our crew were all from like HBO and Showtime, and like Mike Weaver was our director of photography, who's now an Emmy award-winning director of photography. Wow. And, you know, like we had all these incredible people on the team that it felt like such a weird, singular, specific experience. And yeah, I mean, I turned 14 on the set. They threw a birthday party for me. You know, we had cake at lunch and balloons, and I went out to dinner with my parents and then got back to the room, and the girls had like thrown confetti everywhere and like balloons and, you know, presents. And it was just like, it was the best. It was so fun.
It's like full on junior high experience, but probably a better experience than junior high.
It was. I mean, and we loved each other so much. And like, we were so proud of what we were doing. And I mean, on that day that we wrapped, like including our director, who was like a 50-something-year-old man, like cried and cried, like just sobbed. We did not want it to be over. We could have done it forever. We were having the best time, even though it was hard. I mean, it was hard work, but it was so magical, so fun.
I'm just impressed that I can't get the 6 weeks out of my mind that they were like, let's bring in teenagers to film like a teenage movie about junior high and film in 6 weeks.
And all of us were doing school.
What? Insane.
And all of us were in school. And so then Elizabeth, who played Massey, and I had so much time on set. Like we were in so much of the movie that on Saturdays, we would have to bank school hours and do like 6 hours in the tutoring room after like busting our asses all week, like working Monday through Friday. Then we only had Sunday off before like the week would start again. So we truly had like 5 or 6 days off throughout the entire process. It was absolute, and they were long days. I mean, we were there late nights, early mornings, but we loved it. We loved every second of it. I mean, we were making a movie. Hello.
Yeah. Your other 13-year-old friends are like, why can't you go out on Saturday? like on Saturday and hang out.
I was also across the country. So it was, and that's kind of, I think, what contributed to like the summer camp aspect of it, is that we were shooting on location in Rhode Island. So we felt so far away from like life outside of the movie that it was like really, really special.
Now I didn't know Mandy Line was involved in it. Did you ever get like advice, like did you ever get like clothing advice from her after the movie, post the movie? Because oh my gosh, the fashion that she created for like Liars, insane.
Well, what was so ironic about the whole thing with the Clique is that my mom studied fashion in college. My godmother is a fashion executive. My mom and my dad, honestly, and my brother, my whole family is they're clothes horses. So I was really obsessed with clothes and fashion. Like I was like the 7th grader reading Vogue, you know, like I loved all that stuff. And movies like Devil Wears Prada, and, you know, like I always loved looking at clothes. So I was obsessed, and I had the ugliest clothes in the whole movie. I mean, all my clothes were from like Kmart, and the other girls are wearing like, you know, Dolce & Gabbana. Yeah. And so I was obsessed with all of that. And it was watching her in fittings was so incredible. And what was also fascinating about that project is that all of us were wearing we were wearing women's clothes, especially like in the makeover scene. Like that's kind of the only time I'm wearing like adult clothes. But all of those girls those are adult clothes. They don't make those for kids. And so she had like 5 seamstresses on for 3 weeks, altering everything everything was custom altered for all of us because we were so small. We couldn't even wear a women's size small, but they were adult clothes.
Oh my goodness. I just think she's a genius when it comes to fashion. And I'm not really like that into fashion, but
she creates the most beautiful vignettes. I mean, especially, and Pretty Little Liars is similar in that way too. Like when you have the 4 girls, there's so many dynamic things going on, and the way that she plays with color and texture, and she's unbelievable. And one of the funniest, do you know what she looks like?
Yes.
She's like 6 feet tall and covered in tattoos. Like, and she is the best. Like oh my God, I was so obsessed with her. And I mean, on like flights, she'd be like, you want to sit next to me? Like we're like flying together, like obsessed. She was like my girl.
She seems so cool. So cool.
Yeah, she's the best.
I just want her to be like my personal stylist in life. I don't know.
Oh yeah. She's the taste is like impeccable.
Yeah. So I want to get into Kinky Boots because, as I mentioned, 5 different roles. That's insane. And 2 lead roles. What is the process for learning 5 different tracks in a theater show that you're touring?
Oh my God, just chaotic mayhem. I mean, I don't even know. It was great. It's one of those things like how people say everyone should work in a restaurant, or everyone should work in the service industry. I think anyone that's working as an actor in theater should understudy or swing. I think it should totally be a requirement. It is such a hard job. Kinky Boots was a really trying experience for me. And I kind of related to I didn't go to college because I was working and, you know, doing that whole thing. But a lot of my friends described their BFA programs of just like, it was so hard. It kicked my ass. Like it was like so mentally just draining, and but you learn so much about yourself, and you make your best friends for life. And that's the college experience for a lot of people. It's like, it's challenging, but incredibly rewarding, and you take away so much. And I always refer to Kinky Boots as my college. It was so hard. I cried all the time. I felt so inept. But the saving grace, and I don't know if I'll ever swing again. It was just beyond difficult. I don't know how people do it. And some people are just made for it. I don't know if I'm one of those people, maybe, and maybe after doing it once, like I'd be better at it, but it was hard. And I definitely had a hard time. And the process of learning it was like, I had my first ensemble track that I went on for, and then you have put-ins for everything. So I had my put-in for my like big ensemble track that I did the most when I was on tour, which was great. And that was probably my favorite track out of all of them. And then I had 2 other ensemble tracks. And then I had Lauren and Nicola, but I had to put in for Lauren and Nicola as well. Nicola was like easy because it's like little.
Oh, small.
So yeah, it's a smaller role. So that was like, whew, but it was one of my favorites because I think, in my opinion, I think she has the best scenes in the show. So it was fun to like feel like an actor, you know, like I have these two really good scenes, and depending on if I'm doing it with Josh, who was, you know, Adam's cover, or with Adam or with Zach, like it's different every time. Like there was so much room to play in that role with your scene partner. So I really loved doing that. And Lauren, of course, was the best, but it was hard. That number's hard. Like you got shoes flying out at you on a conveyor belt and you're singing and trying to be funny, and it's all timed with lighting cues and prop master and like all of this stuff. So that it was hard, but it was really fun. I went on for Lauren once in a year and a half.
Wow.
Only once, but did it countless times in understudy rehearsals and put-ins and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a blast, but it was really hard and really draining. And one of the things that one of my best friends was just swinging a show, and he was like, "Oh my God, I get it now," because it's a strange place to live as a company member. Like you don't know where you fit in.
You don't know when you're going on.
Well, that is like terrible. I mean, that's like the anxiety of just never knowing like when you're going to get the call, and like, okay, like, you know, I'm going to go out and have a drink, but like, what if I'm on for the matinee tomorrow? But then like 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be. But then of course, the one time that I'm out until 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm on for the matinee, like the one time. So that's always like how it goes. But not knowing where you fit, because you're not really part of the women's ensemble. You're not part of the principals. You're not like the swings were like, it was weird because the male swings were on so much more. I mean, like my male swings were on almost every day, and I only did 33 shows in a year and a half. So it's an isolating experience. It can be an isolating experience depending on the company. That's how I felt it there. But thankfully, I really found my place with the angels, the drag queens, because they're only on for like numbers. So they're sitting backstage a lot of the show. And so I would run to their dressing room and like kiki with them. And I made so many of my like lifelong best friends like on that show. So it was an amazing personal and professional experience, but I took away a lot more from it in hindsight, because at the time it just seemed like I was kind of drowning.
Now, did you say you only went on 33 times? Because that to me feels like a lot as a swing.
I know, but there's 8 shows in a week.
But still, like how many did you go on for? All 5 tracks that you covered?
One I never went on for. There was one I never went on for.
Okay, so
but 4 of the 5 I went on for. And I went on for one ensemble track in particular, like quite frequently. There was one that I did more than others, that I think I did like more than half the time, that one track. So
that one kind of became muscle memory, probably.
For sure, I could do it now. Yeah, like that's probably the only one that I could go on for and be like, look over my notes for 10 minutes and be able to do the show. But the others, I would really need like an intense brush up.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, like how different it is when you're playing like opposite from other understudies that are on, and like other people who are on, and like how live theater constantly changes, because I think that's the coolest thing about live theater, is that
totally
when different combinations of people are on for these roles, it always changes. Nothing's the same.
It's true. And you know, there were some, and it was funny, especially like with the Charlies, like playing the 2 love interests, like there was one boy that I really connected with as this character, as Lauren, and then there was another one that I really connected with as Nicola. And that, you know, like it was like funny how you like at that like magnetic thing happens when you're in a scene with somebody. And that's also just how I work. I'm like super organic. I don't like to do anything the same twice. I just want to like feed off of the energy and see where it goes. But some people aren't. Some people are super regimented and like have their choices, and that's what they're going to do 8 times a week. And that's great too. That's just never been how I work.
Well, and I'm sure the energy changes, like you were touring. So I'm sure the energy changes city to city, because like maybe some cities people are more.
Oh, and the audience energy. Like the audience energy is everything too. Like when you're in Naples, Florida, and everyone's 100 years old and like falling asleep, like, yeah, it's going to be different than Atlanta, where the place is like getting set on fire with like 4,000 people at the Fox Theater. Yeah. And Japan was bizarre too. I mean, Japan was like the most bizarre thing ever because they're reading subtitles. They weren't even like hearing, like we're doing the show in English.
See, I didn't even know you all went to Japan. So
5 weeks.
What was that like, performing for like a completely different audience? You're not in the United States anymore.
It was so amazing. I loved Japan so much. And I only did one show there, but I would watch, and like I would like trail backstage and, you know, like peek out and see what's going on. But it was incredible. It was so funny because we would do the show, and we're doing the show as normal, obviously. And someone would say a line of a joke and then they're reading it. So then like the laugh is like a half second later.
It's like delayed.
So it was like it was like funny because the show just like felt disconnected because it was like slightly delayed. But they were the most, I mean, Japan, we had the most incredible audiences. They would lose their minds like during those numbers. I mean, screaming, clapping, like standing ovations. They were the most incredible audience members. So yeah, but it was funny. It was a bizarre experience to like be doing a show and be like, oh, no one even knows what we're saying.
I mean, I feel like it's weird to say, but like I've watched some like theater productions on like YouTube that are like in Japan, and I'm like, I really want to. It's on my bucket list to go to a theater show in Japan.
Yeah. It was very unique, and our last performance in Osaka, we were in Tokyo for 4 weeks and then we went to Osaka. And our last performance in Japan, like people came from Tokyo to Osaka to see it because they loved the show so much. They wanted to be there for closing night. And it was the craziest crowd ever. And I watched in the house that night and I was like, I can't believe I can't believe this. It was unbelievable.
I mean, and you also got to explore Japan. So that's cool.
That was amazing. And thankfully, my family, I was like, so we're going to Japan for 5 weeks. I had guests the entire time. So like my mom and my brother came, my boyfriend at the time came, my best friend came, who else came? Everyone. My brother, like my dad, everyone came. I literally did not go one night without having a guest in my room. So we were doing all the touristy things and just exploring Tokyo. And yeah, it was really, really fun. And really getting to absorb the culture and the energy there for 5 weeks. You know, I mean, you can't really absorb it in a week or two. You know, it was like, I feel blessed that I got to be there for an extended amount of time.
I mean, you probably had like a regular like restaurant that you went to in Japan during that time too.
We did. We definitely had our places. There's a dumpling place in Harajuku that was like life-changing, and I still dream about it. They had like a cucumber peanut sauce salad that was out of this world.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like a blast. I didn't realize you all went to Japan for that tour. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So I want to talk pre-quarantine. You were in Frozen for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of my favorite shows because it's so magical, and I feel like everyone gets the joy of Disney in their life.
Yeah.
So what was your audition process like for Frozen? And what was your reaction when you got cast in the show? Were you a fan of the movie before?
I was. I loved the music. I loved the movie, of course. I mean, as you know, like it came out when I was like 20, so I wasn't like watching Frozen. Yeah, like I watched Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that because like I'm an adult. But I of course knew the music and loved the movie and all that. And I had been auditioning for it for years, but nothing ever happened. And I went to audition for the tour in 2018. I mean, a long time ago, but I went in for Elsa, like another situation of like going in for the wrong thing. So I went in for Elsa and I did Let It Go. And it was one of the best auditions I've ever had. And I felt like I just crushed it. Like I left and I was like, that was so fun. And I was really vibing with the creatives that were behind the table and like casting, like I could tell that they were into me. So I was like, I'm going to be going back. I just like had that, you know, instinctive feeling that we were talking about earlier. And I never heard anything. I was like, am I delusional? Like, am I have I lost my mind? Because I'm never wrong about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I always know if I'm going to get called back.
I feel like it's going to happen. I have a good feeling.
I was like, it's happening. I'll hear by the end of the week. And then there's like time goes by, and a friend of mine was in the show on Broadway, and I was doing her makeup actually for an event. And I was talking to her about my audition, and she was like, what'd you go in for? And I was like, I went in for Elsa for the tour. And she was like, you're too short. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense.
Wait, they have a height requirement?
No, it's just one of those things. Like in theater, unfortunately, like because it's live and you're not cheating on Apple boxes like you do in movies, they want it to read older sister, younger sister. So they want a tall Elsa and a little Anna. And like, I never thought about it like that, but it totally makes sense. And then, over a year goes by. I hadn't been in for it in forever. And I got a call to go in and do ensemble understudy Anna stuff. And I went in the first time. It went really well, and I felt great about it. And then they called me back the next day. I went in again, and then they were like, okay, final callbacks on Friday. And so I went into the final callback thinking that it was going to be like probably like 6 of us or something. You know what I mean? They were like, bring dance shoes, you have to dance and whatever, which I never do. So of course I'm like vomiting. And so I went to the.
You're like, I don't want to dance.
Like no. Dusting off the Laducas. Like I'm like, oh my God. So I go, and it's literally me and one other girl, like 2 of us. And so we like looked at each other and we're like, wait, this is it? Like, it's just us? It was so chaotic and so stressful, but I was like, I'm getting this job. Like, if it's the last thing that I do, I swear to God. And I flung my body into that dance combination. I truly could not walk for 2 days after. I was so sore. And I felt the energy when I was in the room. I knew that I was connecting with the team and that it went really well and all that kind of stuff. And so I left, and I was working at an office at the time. Oh my God. I was like working at a survival job, and I went back to work. I like went to the audition, went back to work, and I was sitting at my desk, just like staring at my phone. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna know, like today, it was a Friday. Like they're gonna send out an offer today because it was like, you start next week. Like it was so fast. So I'm like, oh my God, like, I think it's me. Like, I feel like it. And my best friend was on the tour, and I like told him everything that happened in the room, whatever. And he was like, I mean, it sounds like you got it, but like, I don't know. And then I like went to the bathroom, left my phone at my desk, came back, missed call from my agent. I was like, ah!
Of course, you leave your phone.
So I like ran to the stairwell of my office, truly, and my heart was beating so fast. I called him back. He was like, hey, so how'd it go today? I was like, it was really good. You know, this happened. Like, well, it sounds like it went really well. And I was like, yeah. Did you get any feedback? And he's like, yeah, you got the offer, so you're starting next week. Ooh. And it was like full speed ahead from then on. And then rehearsals for a full month, and obviously covering Anna, which is a huge role. And that was like a lot. And my track was a very busy track and really vocally demanding. And it was, yeah. And so then we went into rehearsals, and that was it. And it was the best. So fun.
Did you do the part where you like run like in between when the bridge is on stage, when you like run in the Anna wig?
Oh yes. So that was like a whole, like, we would spend full days doing like stunt coordinating stuff with like the bridge and falling off and being in a harness and clipping and unclipping onto the set, and like there was, I mean, and then you like change costumes on stage in that track like 2 or 3 times. Like it was a lot of funny like logistical technical stuff with that track that was probably more challenging than anything, you know, like that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm stressed about the shoe change, you know, like that's what I would be more nervous for than like any of the work itself. But it was an incredible experience, and I loved the people that I worked with, and it was probably the best professional experience that I've ever had, even though it was short-lived. I felt like it was just such a strong company and an amazing group of people. And there was such a, like, it felt very grown up, that company. It was like, okay, we're at work and then we have our lives. And, you know, it wasn't like all things are intertwined like they have been on other jobs that I've done. So,
I mean, and how special even for for a short time. What's it like getting to bring the magic of Disney and Frozen alive on stage for kids and families?
It was incredible, and it didn't even really hit me until, because when you're on stage, like, it doesn't feel so magical and glamorous. Like, my costumes weighed 70 pounds. I'm like, my body was truly broken from doing that job. Like, I was like in PT all the time. I'd never danced that much in my life. I was like doing so much dancing, and running up and down the stairs of the theater in heavy costumes and all of that. So it didn't feel very like magical or glamorous, and you're just trying to do your job to the best of your ability. But the first time that I saw the show after having been in it, they swung a bunch of people out. So it's like, okay, see the show, so you can, because we were doing a new show. We did a whole reboot.
Yeah.
So we changed the whole, so we did the whole like new show. So they wanted to swing everyone out so they could see the new show and be like, okay, this is what we're doing now, so you have an understanding. So I got swung out pretty early, and like the show is just so gorgeous. Like the colors and the sets and the costumes and the lighting and the choreography, Rob Ashford's beautiful choreography and Steven's incredible orchestrations. And it was gorgeous. I mean, like, I couldn't believe, I was like, I can't believe that's what they see. Because when you're up there, it doesn't feel like that at all. You like feel like you're kind of just like in the dark and in that. And I'm like, it all is it. I told Mackenzie, who played Anna, after the show, I was like, sister, like, you have no idea. Like, it looks like a painting. Like, the whole stage looks like a painting, and like you're at the center of it. Like, I was like in hysterics. It was gorgeous.
I mean, it's so true. When people are like, should I bring like little kids to go see Frozen with me? I'm like, just go by yourself. Even like, honestly, it's magical. Like, you don't. It's
a beautiful show.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful show, and an incredible team, and the music team in particular. I had worked with already on Kinky Boots, which is kind of that connection that Stephen and Brian I worked with on Kinky Boots, and I adore and love them so much and respect what they do so much that, I love that music. I love the way this show sounded every day. And it was pretty exceptional to be a part of. I felt very lucky and was just so happy. I mean, I was like skipping to work every day. I mean, I was like, we get paid for this, it's like, it was like an absolute dream come true. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Did you get to go on as Anna?
I had my put in right before shutdown.
Oh my gosh. So you're just like,
yeah, it was crazy, but it was, it was a lot of work, but it was so rewarding doing that, because that role does not stop. I mean, it's go full speed ahead from the time the curtain comes up. So even just getting to do my put in was like just incredibly rewarding.
Do you feel like you relate to Anna or Elsa more?
I don't know. I think I relate to both of them. I mean, probably Anna, which is probably why I ended up, covering that role anyway to begin with. I'm a little bit more of a people pleaser, and I'm not an introvert. I'm more of a like a spastic, extrovert. And so I guess I'd rather die than like go off and be in isolation. That sounds like my personal nightmare. I don't know how else to say that. So I guess I'm more of an Anna.
Okay. I feel like I'm more of an Anna too, even though I'm more of an introvert, but yeah.
Definitely. I can see that. You have a lively spirit, which is like a huge part of it. Elsa's kind of like, she's kind of witchy. She's like dark and moody,
She is, but I love the Elsa songs. Like, so good.
Yeah. All the music is amazing.
Yes. So I want to ask, combining screen and stage, if you could turn any Broadway show into a musical for the movie theaters, what would it be?
If I could turn any Broadway show into a film, oh my God, that's such a great question. That I think would like be, it's hard because it has to be done right. Something that I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of also things that haven't been done already.
Or aren't being done.
Honestly, if it were done incredibly well, like by HBO Max, I have my answer. If it were done perfectly by HBO Max and were perfectly cast and shot and just everything that I'm, envisioning right now in my brain, I would love to see a chorus line movie. That's like not the one that we got. Because the one that we got was not it.
Yeah, something like
kind of more. I kind of felt the same way about West Side Story. People love the original West Side Story movie. I've never been that girl. I'm like, I don't get it. Like I love the musical and I love that show and the music and everything, but the original movie just doesn't do it for me. So I was thrilled with the Steven Spielberg version.
I mean, the whole intro was insane.
Oh my gosh, like full body chills. It was gorgeous and it was perfect. It felt appropriate. It felt, well informed, and I loved that adaptation. So like if they did something like that with a chorus line, like a new chorus line movie, I would, oh my God, I would love it. I love that show. It's one of my it's maybe my favorite musical.
Manifest that dream.
Yeah, I'm manifesting the chorus line film.
With like a good production budget stuff.
Right. But it wouldn't even take much because it's all just on stage.
Yeah.
But then you could do the flashbacks, like you could do all like those flashback sequences when they're like telling the stories. Okay, now I'm gonna roll. I gotta get a pen. I gotta get a pen and paper.
Yes. You're like, wait, I'm gonna send HBO Max or something like this idea.
Well, you could do something really, you could adapt it in such a unique way. I was watching an interview the other day with Rob Marshall talking about adapting Chicago for screen. And that movie is quite different than the show.
Yeah.
But it's that's the perfect movie musical, in my opinion.
It's so good. It is.
It's so good.
Like stunning. You can't take your eyes off the screen.
It's one of my favorite movies. I love it.
I mean, I also, probably unpopular opinion, I like the recent Les Mis movie.
I love parts. I got in a big discussion about this, because what else do you do on Pride weekend?
Yeah.
So, except discuss Les Mis with your gays at Foster's and Hell's Kitchen. So we were talking about the Les Mis movie, and there are moments of it that I think are so amazing, like so beautiful. I Dreamed a Dream obviously is like an Oscar-winning performance.
Yeah, it's
so good. It's so good. And but then there's other parts that I'm just like, that miss. Like I love Heartful of Love, like them at that gate. Like there's such gorgeous things in that movie. And then like other parts, I'm like, One Day More like needed to slap way harder.
Yes.
Like I need like big ensemble belting. Like, and I know that they were trying to do like the like non-studio singing, like it's all live and whatever. But it's like you could have like gotten studio singers to like pad it a little bit, like we all know it's live from the leads, but like have ensemble members like in the studio to like round it out a little bit, because then you have this like massive orchestra that's playing this beautiful. Les Mis is such a beautiful score, and then you have like people on live mics, and that's it. Like we need to pad it a little bit.
Yeah,
I would have preferred that, but I do like that movie.
Oh, it's well done. It's very well done. I feel like if it was made like 10 years later, it would have been like a whole different, like, it would be maybe a little better.
What are your thoughts on the Cats movie? Can you believe it's the same director? That's like crazy to me.
I haven't even watched it. I've watched the trailer because I'm like, I feel like I would have nightmares for like.
It was so wild. Like we went and saw it in theaters at Christmas time, and I was losing my mind, like laughing. It was like fun bad. Like it's like campy. It's bad. It's so bad that it's good.
I mean, I appreciate that. What's the movie theater that they did the comedy version of that movie theater where you like have to stay quiet when you go and watch a movie there and you can't talk, but they like did like some like Saturday nights where people could come and like have like fun and like and
oh my god, I don't know about this. I should have gone because it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean, like we were dying. We were dying.
I need to watch it, I guess.
Yeah, there are things like my brother and I categorize things as just like bad, and then there's things that are fun bad. Like the Dear Evan Hansen movie was just bad. It wasn't even fun bad. I'm gonna read it. I'm sorry. It was bad.
The wig was interesting.
All of it was so strange, and I love that show. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
the
I
show
was like,
too.
I wanted to like it, but I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But I want to like, if it's gonna be bad, I better be laughing at least. Like, it wasn't even fun bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Ay, 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 ay. What would yours be? What would you adapt to be a film?
Ooh. I think mine went the opposite way because it's now a stage musical, but it was a film first, is Moulin Rouge. I
Oh,
love Moulin Rouge.
would you want to adapt the Broadway show to be a movie like what it is
I
now?
mean, like a present day kind of Moulin Rouge. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but
I feel like,
but I'm saying like with the updated, because it's a
yeah,
new like soundtrack and everything like that.
updated songs and stuff. That'd be really
Yeah.
cool. Because I feel like it took me a second to like open up to the modern day songs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wait, the songs are different.
Have you seen it on Broadway?
Yes, I have. It's
Yeah,
so good.
it was
So
spectacular. I mean, Aaron Tveit is like my
especially cool.
everything. Like he was like my BlackBerry screensaver in high school. You know, I've been a fan for a very long time.
Same.
Yeah. So to see him do that show and like just sing the shit out of those songs, I was like, oh my God, like what a blessing to get to see him just do what he was born to do on this stage. Like it's like what a privilege.
Like Roxanne.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't. I no words. Amazing.
I was gonna say he might be a large part of the reason that I really like the Les Mis movie.
Oh my God, totally, totally. With that wig, oh my God,
Yeah.
love it.
Yes.
Love it.
So I want to ask, to kind of like wrap up, do you have any audition tips?
Well, you know, it kind of is out the window now because I'm like everything is still self-tape. Like we're not even going in person right now. So you know, try not to set yourself on fire doing it. Just kidding. Kind of.
The angles.
Oh my God. It's like just invest in a good light. Like just invest, you know, I have a good light. I somehow have a tripod that like the parts that need to use, you know, that I need for my iPhone to fit on the tripod somehow always go missing. So then I order like 5 more tripods. Like
and then you find them.
Yeah. So just like have your technical side together. I need to get better about that. But I'm literally doing a self tape tomorrow. Like it's still very much in that phase of auditioning. But one of the best pieces of advice, it doesn't really pertain to like the audition room, but more so just like your personal trajectory and your journey like in this business, is know who you are. Know who you are, know what you bring. I mean, I passed on something last week that they sent me the dance call and I was like, that ain't me. And you know what? And that's not out of laziness or fear or anything. Like that's not what I do. So I'm not going to waste I'm not going to waste their time. I'm not going to waste my time. They clearly want dancers, which I am not. So we're just not going to do that. But the best piece of advice that I ever got was the most successful people have the most specific goals. And my godmother said this to me, and she's had an incredible career in fashion, but she's like, you want to be in musicals? What kind of musicals? What music directors do you want to work with? What choreographers do you want to work with? What directors do you want to work with? Like, have these lists and don't audition for anything else. And that was hard because a lot of my friends, when I first got to New York, were like flinging themselves in like 9 million different directions, just auditioning for everything. And I think that there's really something to having specificity and knowing who you are and like what you're going to bring. There's only so much energy that you can put out. It's incredibly hard. Like auditioning's hard.
Yeah.
So you have to know who you are and what you bring to the table. And one of the number one people on, one of the top 5 people on my list that I wanted to work with as a singer was Stephen Arimas. I was like, I want to be in Stephen Arimas shows. And my number one show that I wanted to be in when I moved to New York, which is actually kind of the reason I moved back to New York, was Kinky Boots. So
wow.
I lived and breathed that show. I loved that show. And I also knew that I was right for it. And so I went to every Kinky Boots EPA. I went to every Kinky Boots ECC. You know, I stayed in their face. And then I finally, when my track opened up, they called me. So just knowing who you are and what you want to do. I also always knew that I was like right for Frozen. So I kept like pushing forward with that one. And there's what I'm taping for tomorrow is a show that I auditioned for 5 years ago. And they're calling me back again because like I knew that, I knew that it was something that I was right for. So the biggest tip, if like you're entering this industry, or if you're trying to do something along the lines of like singing, dancing, acting, whatever, just like know your brand, be well defined, present that, and just know your worth and what you're going to bring to the table, and show up, because when it's the right fit is when it happens. So I just don't like to waste my time on things that I know are not going to be the right fit for me. But maybe, I know some other people that have like a really broad range of, what they think that they can offer and what they deliver. And that's not me. I know exactly like the kind of shows that I want to be doing and the kind of things that I want to be working on and what I'm right for. So,
and you don't want to push
probably
yourself
the best.
too hard either.
No. And it's just like, and for what? Because like, I have auditioned for things that I'm like, I'm not right for this. And like, I know some other person this is their thing and this is not my thing. And then the things that are my thing, I'm like in final callback for, I buff, like it always happens that way. So I think just knowing what the kinds of things that you want to be working on is the most important mindset to have when you walk into this industry, which is absolutely insane and makes zero sense. Like at least know what you're doing.
How do you work on like not comparing yourself to others in the industry? Because I know like in any industry that's hard.
It is. And there's definitely girls, like there's definitely a short list of girls that come to mind that I'm just like, yeah, like I will be seeing them at this callback. You know what I mean? Like we deliver a similar thing, but I don't compare myself to anybody because my experience has been so unique. And just kind of remembering that, like being a child performer and then, moving across the country twice and doing film and television and then coming back to theater. And like I have such a strange path that's just been constantly winding. And I'm so happy that it's wound up here. And I hope that I obviously end up back in the city and working on a show and all of that. And that's what we're working towards now. But so it's just, it doesn't really serve anybody to compare yourself because, and it's also like, just again, knowing what you're good at. Like, I'm not going to be the best soprano one opera singer on Broadway, but like whoever is the best soprano one on Broadway, like can't belt a rock song like me, probably. So what's the point in talking about what other people are doing or thinking about what other people are doing? Because we're all unique. We all have different gifts and different things and abilities to offer.
It's so true. And I think that's really good to hear for everyone in any industry.
Of course.
Actually.
We all have different experiences and we all have different tastes. And like what I do is so informed by what I've absorbed over the years and my taste. And that's so specific to me. Like it's, it's professional, but it's personal.
Yeah.
So you just have to think about it like that.
Yes, exactly. So where can people follow you on social media to keep up with what you're doing?
You can follow me on Instagram at Ellen Marlow is my Instagram. I'm honestly way more active on TikTok. Ellen_Marlow on TikTok. You can find me there. Lots of fun content, lifestyle things, the Clique, all of that. And I also have a YouTube channel, so you can check me out there. Just, search the name. And yeah, like all over the internet, ellenmarlow.com.
Yes.
Lots of outlets.
All the links in the description in the lower thirds. And
amazing.
Lastly, is there anything you want to promote that I missed? I know I searched you on YouTube and you've done a lot of like solo shows and stuff in the area.
I have, and I'm really thinking about doing another one because I love it and it kind of feeds my soul because like at my core, I think of myself as like a singer before anything else. And I love doing those shows and like putting a set list together and all of that. So I'm thinking about doing that again. Let me know if you guys want that at Green Room 42, my favorite venue in New York City. It's amazing. But yeah, definitely check out all of my stuff online. I have a lot of videos of me performing at Green Room and doing my solo shows, and of course, all the content on TikTok too.
Yes. And again, links in the description and in the lower thirds. Well, yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and join my interview series today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice talking with you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!